Welcome to the Campus Conversation Series for our fall 2023 semester. My name is Jessica Vess. I am in the Office of College Relations and Marketing, and I'm going to hand it over to our Chancellor and Provost. And we will kick off. That was me. People are excited.
Yeah.
And we'll provide you the campus conversation discussion today. At the end, we'll have opportunities for Q&A. When we do get to that moment, I will walk around, or someone else on our team will walk around to give you this microphone. The reason it's important for us to make sure you have the microphone before we ask the question is so that those who are watching virtually can hear the question. So we'll run around as quickly as we can at that moment. But please do wait for the microphone before you ask. And with that, I'll hand it over to you, Dr. Rhodes.
All right. Thank you, Jessica. Okay. This is a great group. And this is a great day. So did you all watch last night? Yeah. Okay. So a couple of things over the last 2 or 3 weeks is, number one, is we had our 10-year SACS reaffirmation visit. And we had, so the site visitation team was here on campuses and visited different campuses and different sites. And we came out with 0 recommendations. And if you're familiar, if you're familiar with reaccreditation, reaffirmation, I've been in this business for 45 years. So I've been through a number of them and at different institutions. And I will tell you, if you have 0 recommendations, that is unheard of. That never happens. This is our 3rd time to have 0 recommendations. 5 years ago, since we started offering bachelor's degrees, SACS kicked us up to the baccalaureate degree granting institution status. And so when they do that, then they actually send a special team to come and make sure that you are prepared for the rigor and that you have all the facilities and everything necessary to be able to offer baccalaureate degrees. So we had that site visitation team here 5 years ago. At the same time, they do a 5-year, so it's the mid-10-year visit, 5-year. They send a team to look and make sure that you're on track with your QEP and everything else that you're doing. So in both of those visits, and those 2 teams were here at the exact same time, which is also unheard of, 0 recommendations. Now, coming up with this last visit, I was a little bit concerned because it's our first visit where we had members of the team who actually worked for universities as opposed to just community colleges, because all the past visits were just community college faculty and staff. This one had, of the site visitation team, half of them worked for universities in the Southern Association. So I was a little nervous about what they may think about a community college, but boy, it was perfect. And then last night, the voters, 70% approval rate, which is also almost unheard of. If you go back to the 2014 bond election that we did, that passed also, we had 57%, I think, was the pass rate, the approval rate on that. So to go from 57% in 2014 to 70%, I just want to say thank you, because that is a reflection of the work that you all do with our students and with our community every single day. It makes a difference, and they recognize that it's making a difference in our communities. So first of all, just thank you for making that happen. And thanks for the support. Now, the purpose of this is I'm going to introduce, and I'll go through a couple of things first, but introduce our new provost, who is day by day becoming less new, Dr. Monique Umphrey. And she's going to speak to you in just a little bit. But she started with us on December the 13th of 2021. And so coming up on her 1-year anniversary fairly quickly. One of the great things that I love about this is she's got both experience in industry as well as community colleges. And that's what she brings to us. So she's been with 2 former community colleges. She was a campus president at Houston Community College before she came here. Prior to that, she had a couple of different positions at Cuyahoga Community College in Cleveland, Ohio, and really did some outstanding work in career and technical education and career pathways for students. So has a great track record. But prior to that, she had a lot of industry experience, and one was Health Corporation of America, HCA, and the other was with Bridgestone. And so understand and having an IT background and understanding what's necessary to create those relationships that are absolutely critical for us with business and industry partners throughout our community, and to make sure that we're staying on top of what are the right skill sets necessary for us to give to our students so that they can be effective when they go out into the industry and into the workforce. So glad to have her here, and I'm not going to let her speak yet. So, the Round Rock campus, and you're familiar with it. What a fantastic campus this is. And I just have to tell you, this morning, before I came here, I was at a Momentum Advisory Council meeting, which is the economic development arm for the Round Rock Chamber of Commerce. So they're the ones that work with industry partners and take a look at how do we attract more industry into the Round Rock area. And so we had our council meeting this morning. And if you didn't know, the Round Rock Chamber and the Momentum Advisory Council voted unanimously to support ACC in the bond election. That did not happen in 2014. They didn't vote against us, but they didn't vote to support it in 2014. They have come a long way to recognize exactly what we're doing for Round Rock. And so, we've got the accelerator as a result of the 2014 bond issue. We got this building as a result of that. So it is also the home of the only early college high school that's physically located on one of our campuses. As a result, I will tell you, it is the most successful of all of our early college high schools. We have 13 early college high schools spread throughout. And this one is the most successful because it's physically located on the campus, is what I would say and tell you. That students believe and they understand they are college students and they're here with us. And that makes a real difference in the psyche of the student and how they perform and how they develop. And so thank you for being hospitable to them and making them feel welcome and that they belong here. Belonging is probably the most important thing we can do with our students. They have to realize that they are college material and they will be successful. It is also home to skilled trades, and what you're going to find as a result of the bond election, $75 million will be spent on the Round Rock campus, and it's really to take a look at the expansion of advanced manufacturing, skilled trades, including welding, and also healthcare and the health careers programs, so that we can make some expansion there. As a result of the Great Resignation, and I think the name is changing. I was talking to Monique yesterday, and they're not calling it the Great Resignation, but I'll let you talk about that. But we're losing. What we've seen over that last 3 years is we've lost a lot of teachers, we've lost a lot of nurses and healthcare professionals, and we've lost a lot of law enforcement officers. And so how do we play a role in making sure that we are providing the right people with the right skill sets to take over? So specialized health science facilities, that will continue expansion. So I talked a little bit about the 2014, which was phase 2, which was this building, phase 2 of the Round Rock campus. We also did something this past year that we hadn't done before, and that is to issue tax maintenance notes, which are paid for by the taxpayers, but it does not have to go to a bond election. You cannot use that to build new facilities, though. You can only use it for renovation of existing facilities. So we issued somewhere in the neighborhood of about $85 million this last year to do some renovation projects, some health and safety, others are maintenance and renovation for new purposes on all of our campuses. And so you'll see some of that happening at the Round Rock campus, but then the major one was the 2022 bond election that just got approved last night. So of that, 70% voted in favor of us. As a result, $770 million, of which we broke up how we're allocating that among the North region, the Central region, and the South region. And so you can see that the North region, which includes Round Rock, is getting $200 million. So a number of projects that will be going on different campuses throughout. One of them in the South region is the largest because that's the one that we have not done a lot of investing over the years, but is growing very quickly. When you take a look at the Hayes area, and in 2014, we went to the voters and said, we would like you to invest in some land acquisition for a future campus. And that's, we bought about 125 acres by the airport and 130, which just happens to be about where Tesla now is located. So that is going to be a major CTE campus. So $200 million of the $390 will go into the Southeast Travis County. And that'll be for programs such as auto trades, auto tech, welding, construction management, advanced manufacturing will be the major programs going in there. Also, we've talked about wanting to make sure that we have the high-cost programs like nursing available to students in the North, Central, and South. We do not have a South presence for nursing and health career programs. So as a result of the issue, $100 million will go into the Hayes campus for a health careers facility. So we'll have nursing at all three, the North, Central, and South. And that's important to those communities. So a lot of excitement going on here. And after Monique speaks, we'll talk more about what your questions are and anything that you have on your mind. Other district-wide projects, and this is really a result of the tax maintenance notes that I talked about. And so it's a number of different projects going on throughout all of our campuses. And then what we've done for the last 3 years is, we have a strategic plan for the college. And then underneath the strategic plan, we've got an academic master plan that was very participative and inclusive in the development of that. It was approved about 2 years ago. In addition to that, at the same time, we had a facilities master plan that was developed for all of our campuses, plus our land banks. And so all of that is going into it. Underneath that, then, is on an annual basis, how do we ensure that we are making progress on the strategic plan, the academic master plan, and the facilities master plan for the future? And so we come up with what's called Chancellor's Priorities. And we have 6 of those. to make sure that we're making progress with our community. And Dr. Humphrey's going to get into some details on that, but just the kind of the buckets that encompass those are equity, and that is number one on our list. So equity, enrollment, learning and retention, wellness, modernizing our technology, and that is inclusive of the ERP that we're currently, there's 3 pieces to an ERP. One is human resources, the other is finance, and the other is the enrollment management system. And the first 2 have already been implemented, and we're in our first year of that implementation. We're beginning the implementation process, which will be a 3-year time frame of bringing up the SIS, the Student Information System. That is a hard one to bring up. And I will tell you, in my career, I've been through 4 ERP migrations. They are painful. I don't care what product you buy. I don't care how well they tell you it's going to be, how easy it's going to be. They are not. They are very painful to go through. I'm really proud of our team. There's always going to be hiccups along the way, but I'm really proud of our team in the implementation of the HR and the finance. And there's still some bugs to be worked out, and will be through the next couple of years. SIS is going to be hard, though. That's the most difficult and the most painful to go through. So please bear with us, work together. And I'm now going to turn it over to Dr. Humphrey.
So let me start by saying how excited I am to be here with you today. I'm always excited when I get a chance to stop here at Round Rock. Tracy, thank you. Your hospitality and the whole team is amazing. But, before I say anything else, I have to expound on something Dr. Rhodes said. He talked about the bond, and when I got on the elevator, somebody thanked me for the bond, and I'm like, I should thank you. When I think about everything that goes into a bond package, it really is not just a measure of what's on the ballot, it's a measure of the community's confidence in us. So when I think about everything that you do every day, everybody has a different role. But when you play your role well, that is the sum total of how they feel about us collectively. So I want you to give yourself a pat on the back. We could not have made it here if you all weren't operating with excellence every day. So for that, I want to thank you. And then before we go into some of the other things on the slides, I'm just curious. Out of everybody in the room, Dr. Rhodes mentioned some of the transitions in the workforce. If you know someone in your family or a close friend or relative who made a job change in public safety, show of hands. Okay. If you know someone that worked in child care, close friend or family member that transitioned from March 2020 until now, show of hands. Someone who made that transition in education, K-12, show of hands. So Dr. Rhodes mentioned the Great Resignation, and we were talking yesterday, and for those of you that are familiar with McKinsey & Company, they partnered with Lean In, and they released their 2022 report on women in the workforce. And they said we are now shifting from the Great Resignation to the Great Breakup. They're calling it the Great Breakup. And the Great Breakup is largely led by women. So women making transitions in healthcare, in education, and in childcare across the board. But also, you're having women in the early stages of their career looking at their company and saying, are women in my company progressing? Is this a place where I can have a viable future? They're making transition. You're looking at women that are in the senior rank saying, is this somewhere where I can thrive? Am I getting my fair shot at leadership here? And they're making transitions. That is the crux behind the great breakup. So just to add on to that, because when you think about what we do, you know, I always say that ACC, we're the engine for Austin. We're the heartbeat for Austin. If you think about systems and circulatory systems, we're that heart that's beating. Because without ACC, we're developing the workforce for the future. If you don't do your roles every day, you know, yes, the things on the bond, the things, if you read all of the language, if you took the time to read all the language, most people notice the items in there about workforce training. But you can't have workforce training without the humanities, right? We can't continue to build and scale without the humanities. We can't. Dr. Rhodes and I had the pleasure yesterday of meeting with the president of HT and the provost there, Houston Tillotson. And we were talking about, we were bragging on our QEP, you know, as we do, and the relevance of our QEP. And they were excited to hear about all the things that we were doing. And they shared that their QEP is around soft skills. And I was saying that we stopped calling them soft skills about 7 years ago because there's nothing soft about them. They're not easy. To really do emotional intelligence well, it is a skill and it's not soft. I call them business essential skills because you might get in the door without them, but you won't thrive and you sure won't get promoted without them. So it was just interesting talking about the nexus between those soft skills and then our QEP around digital literacy, digital fluency, equity, and innovation, and how important that is for students today. So as we talk about the different priorities that we have here, Dr. Rhodes mentioned that the very first one is equity. The reason why this one is first, and again, I mentioned yesterday, this was one of the primary reasons why I came to this college. When I started doing my research and I looked at some of the other colleges and universities out there, you all may already know this, but after the murder of George Floyd, there were a lot of colleges that gave statements on the inhumanity of what happened with George Floyd. But what I respected about ACC is you all didn't have to issue a statement about George Floyd. There was already an equity movement being led by the faculty that started in 2016. The college was already committed to equity, and it showed in the actions. And so I wanted to be at a place that didn't do a reactive stance and put something up on the web page because this isn't the soup of the day, but I wanted a college that was committed to truly driving equity. And so when we think about the chancellor's priorities, this is a way for us to track and monitor the work that we're doing. So it's a continued focus on equity. Just like our 3 C's, it's a continued focus on how we treat each other. So when we look at the foundation of our work, we will continue to focus on our work around equity in the classrooms, equity in outcomes, continuing to work with our leaders on increasing diverse hiring, but also around personalized learning. Each student needs different things in order for them to thrive. You've heard me talk probably ad nauseum about embracing neurodiversity. We have to make sure we meet students where they are, and that's different for every student. But in order for the student to thrive, we have to create the environment that they need, not what we think they need, but what they need. And again, celebrating differences, understanding that each student has their own brand of brilliance. It's up to us. I call us, we have a toolkit and we help each student. We listen. Our first job is to listen. One, to see the student and see them for the human, the individual that they are instead of the group label. But then once we start to unpack all of those layers, then we start to look and say, okay, what is it that you want to do? What is it that you are uniquely designed to do and bring into this world that no one else can? If the student already knows their purpose, that's amazing. We're giving them, jet fuel to help them soar into the stratosphere, right? But if they don't, it's to help them peel those layers back and figure out what their purpose is. We talk about the magic that happens in the classroom. we just don't know. We all, when we think about why we flocked to education, why we flocked to higher ed, it's because we believe, deeply believe, that we have the ability to help connect people with their purpose and propel them for greater futures. When we worked as a cabinet on a North Star, one of the things that we said is we are intentional about improving upward economic mobility. What does that look like? How do we walk that out every day? So with that, as we are working with the students to help them find their purpose, and each one of you does that in different ways, whether you're in the classroom or you're a counselor or you're providing support services, you are helping that student on their journey to find their purpose, to find their sense of belonging, to help them feel connected here. During the last 3Cs meeting, I asked, who was the first person that made you feel welcome at this college? For me, it was Missy Patterson. I'm going to keep saying that. She was the first person, and that was online, because when I started the interview process, it was online. But she made me feel welcome. And then when I got on campus, it was Carol Johnson, who ended up being my admin. So I said, my online person was Missy, and my in-person person was Carol. Think about the person that first made you feel welcome, and why. What was it they did that made you feel like you were a part? That matters. That matters for us. It mattered for you. That's probably why you're still here. Because the fact that you're here in times of a great resignation or a great breakup, you could have been a lot of other places, but you chose to stay here. That's because you're committed to the college. You're committed to our mission. Our students need you. Our students need you. Our students need you. Each one of you, just like the students have a purpose, you have a purpose. And as you help bring out the brilliant, each one of our students is brilliant in a different way. But helping them to tap into their brilliance and their God-given talent, because we don't know what they're going to bring to the world. But as you help them connect with that, magic happens. And that's what I love about education. It's a synergy that happens with us. It's not math. You do one thing and you do one thing and you do one thing, and together we've got 40 units of one thing. It's exponential. It's the multiplier effect. We're force multipliers together with what we do. So that's the magic here at Austin Community College. And I brag about us all the time because there are things going on here that you don't see at other colleges. But that's only possible because of the commitment of our team members. Like I said, ACC has demonstrated a long history and commitment to equity, and we're going to continue to do so. Dr. Rhodes mentioned enrollment as another focus area, and why is this? Getting back to our mission and our charge. We have an ethical responsibility to serve everybody in our service area that expresses an interest in higher education and wants to do better. We have a responsibility to serve them. So it's our job to look at ourselves and put the onus on ourselves. And instead of asking the student, why didn't you do X, X, and X? But to say, what can we do to remove some of those barriers to make it a little bit easier for them to achieve their goals? If they want to come here, we want to make it possible. We want them to have that light the fire moment. We want them to leave here, go out and change the world and say, I'm a Riverbat forever, right? We want that. So how do we make sure that for the future Riverbats, we take it from dream to reality, bring that to fruition? So that's our task here under the enrollment banner. So we're doing a lot of work. You all may be familiar, you may have heard during the board meeting that we have a contract with a consultant to help us. They've got an outside view. They've worked with a lot of award-winning colleges to help us say, you know what, here's some best practices. Here's some things we can do to implement to smooth that road out and help bring more students along that want to come. Positive experiences for every student. That goes back to, like I said, who was the person that made you feel welcome? If you could do one thing today, is to put a smile on somebody's face. How can we do that? How can we think about that? If we, some of you, and I have to say this, we had our AAWCC conference, fall conference last Friday. If you had a chance to participate in it, we had a lot of fun. The American Association for Women in Community Colleges, I can say that quickly. But we had our conference Friday, and as we were planning, I said, okay, it's an online conference. A lot of people are tired of Zoom. How do we make this different? And if you've heard me talk about a product lens, it's not that we're a product. It's applying the product lens. You think about how marketers back in the day would say new and exciting, or if you build it, they will come. That is not the case with higher ed anymore. We can't just throw up a program and expect people to show up because we created something. No, we have to apply a product lens to what we do. Whenever we initiate a new program or start a new services, we have to think, what problem are we trying to solve? If we're not solving someone's problem, we're just creating extra weight. And we can complain about why people didn't attend, but if we're not solving someone's problem, many of you have read the book Choosing College. I would recommend it. It talks about the jobs to be done framework. What's interesting about this is when you think about what students have, and if you apply the product lens to our thinking and problem solving, there are two ways in which you approach something if you're trying to solve someone's problem. You are either addressing a problem and creating a solution, or you're creating an exciter, something that they didn't know was possible. Now let's take that product lens, and I know this is different for us in higher ed, but we're in different times, which require different solutions. Think about what Steve Jobs did in 2007. A lot of you had phones. We had what they called the candy bar phones, right? The bricks. What they did when they created the smartphone, do you know what the job to be done was? What they were solving for? They didn't just say, we're going to create a smartphone and people are going to want it. Guess what the original problem was behind the smartphone? People wanted to look sophisticated when they were in a crowd and not look bored and lonely. So if you were on the subway in New York, you could be on your smartphone and people think, I bet he's looking at that spreadsheet. Yeah. And you were actually reading the comics or whatever it didn't matter. It made you look sophisticated. It made you look like you had things to do. I know for my kids, I don't even have to go into that, right? Okay. I think you get it. It created an exciter. People didn't anticipate. People didn't know they needed a smartphone. But once they had it, how many of you have left the house and left your smartphone and went back? My pastor talked about that one time, and he said, you leave the house and go back for your smartphone. Do you do that for your Bible? And somebody said, my Bible's on my smartphone. So, we're in different times, right? How do we create those exciters for our students? How do we create that moment they didn't even know they needed? I think about all the different student panels we have here at ACC, and when I listen to them talk, they are more in love with ACC than we are. It changed their world. It changed their world. For the students that came here and they weren't quite sure if college was for them, for the people that had bad experiences in K-12, for the people that are wondering, I think I need something different, but I'm not quite sure what, ACC became that magic. They trusted us to help connect them with a better future, a better quality of life. And you, all of us have different ways. We have different roles, but we're all part of one unit. I love the band, the movie Drumline, if you've ever seen it. One band, one sound. One band, one sound. Dr. Rhodes is our conductor. He's up on the stage giving us the direction. I'm over here leading the whirl, the flutes, and I like percussion. I'd like to be on the drum line personally. But we all have different roles. The thing is, do we do it with excellence? I want to be working to get better at that drum line every day. I watch this guy on Instagram, and he does some amazing stuff with drum lines. And I thought, each day he tops himself. He posts a new video every day. And I'm like, how does he do this? He's creating exciters. And I'm looking every day to see, what is he going to do? Well, he threw his drumsticks up. He threw about 3 up, had another one in his pocket, and came back. I'm like, that guy's amazing. I need him on my team. Whatever he does for the rest of his life, he's going to bring that same excitement to that role. And I just want us to think about that. We've got a lot of superstars in here. Keep doing what you're doing because it matters. Positive experiences for our students, that's what changes the game. Learning and retention. We are known for being excellent at teaching and learning. We have a national reputation for excellence in teaching and learning. We have a total T-led division, right? We're not going to stop. The real question is, how do we continue? Because if you're a sports fan, you know about the Super Bowl champ. The challenge is when you win to get lazy in the off season or to be so busy on the parade that you want to go out and celebrate and hear people say your name, the cheers effect. But what happens if you don't get back in the gym quick enough, if you don't start training for next season? You better believe that team that went 0-16 is coming for you. They're coming for you. And guess what? There are a lot of colleges that are a little jealous of ACC. I know that's not proper etiquette in the higher ed world, but there are some colleges looking at us saying, how do they do what they do? And guess what? It's a lot of for-profit that don't care about our students, but our students represent dollar signs, and they're looking at profit. And if they can pull our students from us with a slick marketing campaign, they're happy to do that because that represents profit for them. We actually care about our students. We deeply care. Because we deeply care, we have to make sure that we're creating the optimal learning environment. Not just what was possible in 1974, not just what was possible when you went through college or when I went through college or even when my daughters went through college. My youngest one just graduated in 2020. But what's possible for 2023? What's possible for 2024? What's possible for 2025? How many of you are familiar with GPT-3? Show of hands? Any? GPT-3 is an AI tool that students can use to write papers. Did you know that? I doubt any of you could detect it was written with GPT-3. What does that mean for us? How does that change what we do? Not to be answered in this session. What that means is we have to continually evolve as educators. We talk about lifelong learning and we want our students to pursue lifelong learning. We have to continue to pursue lifelong learning. It's not about the sage on the stage anymore. It's about being a guide. It's about seeing our students, equipping them with what they need, ensuring that we are continually applying the best things so that they can thrive. And so for us, we're continuing to leverage technology, continuing to invest in our faculty, continuing to invest in professional development so that all of us can be at our best. So 3 of the things that we're doing, I've talked about our QEP. Hopefully you participate in some of the campus conversations for the QEP. Digital fluency and innovation. I like to refer to it as Tequity because it's combining the digital fluency and digital equity in an amazing way. But also high flex courses. Our students increasingly we have more and more students that are working while they're pursuing their degree. So they need flexibility with the scheduling. We saw through the pandemic, if you had a child that caught COVID and all of a sudden you had a quarantine for safety, you didn't want to expose the people in your class. If we have a high flex situation, then the student could work from home, still participate in class, and not miss. What we know is attendance is one of the greatest drivers of completion, and you can't finish if you're not there, right? How can you learn if you're not there? So we want to support attendance as much as possible. What I love about the high flex modality is we can use our GIS faculty as examples because they were some of our early innovators with high flex. They submitted an article in the League for Innovation. What they talked about is they designed their high flex courses as an online class with a face-to-face presence. So it was designed to optimize the online experience so you don't feel like a second-class citizen. You don't feel like you're watching Hollywood Squares and everybody's a small, because if I was to do a traditional online class and everybody in here was in face-to-face, if anyone talks, there's no way when I'm online at home I can tell who was talking. All I hear is a voice, and it might sound like wah 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 wah. If the audio quality is not good with high flex rooms, we have to create audio connections throughout the room so it's clear and the sounds are not muffled, but also so the camera will zoom in on the particular person speaking. So again, optimizing that experience for the person that's online. And we're investing in that. That's part of the bond. An intentional effort to re-equip our classes across our footprint, across the district, to make this possible. It's also for us the investment in professional development to make sure that all of our faculty understand what do we need to do from a pedagogy perspective and an andragogy perspective to ensure that we're leveraging everything that we can to optimize this learning environment. And then strategic scheduling. I've mentioned flexibility. I've mentioned we have right now the way that we currently administer our scheduling. It is a big lift for all of our instructional faculty to walk that out because so much of it is manual. We want to be able to leverage technology to provide, again, a tool for those faculty members, for those department chairs and deans, and so that they can leverage the technology to say, okay, historically you may have had 3 sections of government, whatever, at Round Rock, but now we've had 75 more people move to the area, and based on their degree plans, we need 6 more sections or 2 sections. But providing the people that are building the schedule with that real-time information based on real-time data, based on what our students actually need versus having to guess. Because what may have worked 5 years ago, we almost had to do a reset with COVID and the patterns, right? So we're trying to learn. As we are a learning institution, we continue to learn and evolve. Strategic scheduling allows us to do that. Wellness. What does this mean? It doesn't mean that we're building gyms in every location. It means that we are committing to be more intentional about caring for each other. Yes, we are a student-centric college. Yes, we're a student-ready college. But it also means we're human-centric. And we care about each other. How do we show up for each other? You know, I mentioned the Great Resignation and the Great Breakup. What do we do to make sure we don't lose the great people that we have? How do we show the people that we have that we care about them? How do we show each other, I care about you and I want to show up for you. I see that you're going through something right now. How can I help you today? It is, you know, for the people that you work with every day, I know Steve, I know the smile he has. If he walks in and he's not smiling, let me talk to him offline, not in front of everybody, but just check in and see, everything going all right? Anything I can do to help? You know, for me, I consider my job as provost. Somebody asked me my job description. I'm a linebacker. It's my job to come in and do the blocking and tackling and remove the barriers so my team can run. That's my job. How do we show up for each other in intentional ways to really show each other that we have each other's back? Truth be told, everybody in here, if I was to ask you, have you ever been hurt emotionally by someone? It's not a touchy-feely moment, but if I were to ask you that and you to answer it in your mind, I'm sure everybody would say, there have been moments when I've been let down. If I was to ask the follow-up question, have you ever been disappointed at work? I don't want anybody to answer, no nods, no winks, no blinks. I'm sure you could probably say yes too. The question is, how do we move forward? How do we create an environment where we all feel trust for each other, where we show up for each other, and we respect each other, and we create an environment where people feel that we want to continue to build on that trust. There's a lot in that. There's a lot to unpack. I can't solve all of that in this session, but just know that this is what's on our plate. And under that, you know, we've already, the college committed to the 3 C's, I'm not sure how many years ago, maybe 2020. That's not going to stop. We're going to continue. That's important. That's at the core of who we are. Caring, collaboration, connection. Within the provost area, within my area of influence, my sphere of influence, I decided to, let's recognize people that are doing an amazing job with this. So we do the 3 C's Award so that we can recognize the people. And it's been amazing. I was so excited with, it was last week. No, last week was accreditation. That was a blur. The week before that, I believe, we had our 3 C's Award. And you know what was so special? We had people bring their family in for them to see them get their award. And I was able to meet their families. And, you know, it's just a feel-good moment to see people recognized for doing what they do well. And so we want to continue with that, to build on that, because I believe in the virtuous cycle. We want to continue to emphasize the things that we want. And we want continued warmth, connection, collaboration, and connection. You cannot have innovation. Yes, we have been an innovative college, but if we want to continue to be innovative, we have to work on the trust first, because you cannot have innovation without trust. I'm going to say that again. You cannot have innovation without trust. So we have to work on the trust, strengthen the trust. The other pillar, the other theme is modernization. So intentionality around our technology. Dr. Rhodes mentioned the ERP and the SIS implementation. We have got to upgrade our SIS system. We're running out of time. If you all know the system that we have, we're working with colleagues, but we've got to move to a more modern platform. One thing we've learned since 2019 is students' expectations have changed. Think about what they had for expectations for online. It was different then versus now. That first semester when everybody had 2 weeks to prepare for online classes, people gave each other a little grace. Okay, I'm still trying to figure out Zoom. But if you don't know how to share a screen on Zoom by now, it's almost willful. Well, I'm just being honest, because we've had 2 years to work on learning and doing better. So how do we raise the bar with technology? And how do we continue to invest in ways that we create that optimal student learning environment? And also, how do we think intentionally about collaborative workflows? One of the things Steve knows that we've been working on, lead and lag indicators. I always ask people, within your sphere of influence, what can you control? And what can you drive that will help us towards those outcomes that we're looking at? And when we talked about innovation, we had a lot of discussion about what does innovation mean? And in my mind, you don't have to be the first one that developed a rocket. An innovation is a new or novel way to approach a problem. Okay? And we use the example how many people ever heard of Skype? Show of hands? Who used Skype during the pandemic? How many people use Zoom? Zoom came in and wiped out the market share for Skype, right? It wasn't because Zoom had a million features. If you look at WebEx, they added 1,900 codec code changes and upgrades since March of 2020. Guess what? Nobody knows. And a lot of people didn't care because Zoom was easy to use. We talked about problems, a product approach, a job to be done. What was the problem? People wanted to connect and easily. They didn't care about 1,900 features. They wanted to be able to get on quickly, have a meeting, and get off. They wanted to be able to send a meeting invite easily. I gave my brother a Zoom tutorial he was like, let's take about an hour. I said, okay. It took us about 5 minutes. He sent his own invites. He was like, it was that easy? I said, yep. He was like, man, I've been really stressing about this. And then next thing I know, he was like, man, I'm going to save myself some time, create some Zoom meetings. Some of these meetings don't need to be in person. And he called me back about 3 weeks later. He said, you have changed my life, sis. That's the exciter. But the innovation was not that Zoom was the first one to create a video platform. It was that they simplified it. So that's an elegant solution. So that's what I call innovation. It's an elegant solution. It can be new. It could be a tweak on something. Many times, some of the best innovations are tweaks. Netflix didn't create the video industry. Blockbuster was there. But guess what Netflix did? They used the jobs to be done framework You know what Netflix did that Blockbuster didn't do? Eliminated late fees. Anybody remember Be Kind, Rewind, or whatever that mess was? I remember the terror when I cleaned out the minivan. I'm vacuuming out the minivan and wondering what French fries my girls left in the back seat. And I found a video. And I'm like, oh gosh. And I, do that walk of shame into Blockbuster. And they tell me that'll be $77.54. Ouch. Yes, I'll try Netflix. Thank you very much. Netflix didn't create videos. They didn't create movies. They created an elegant solution. So as we think about innovation, what that means for us, how do we create innovative solutions? How do we create elegant solutions? How do we simplify the things that we're already doing? That's innovation. Sustainability and effectiveness. So we know as a college that Dr. Rose just talked about us completing our reaffirmation with 0 recommendations. Kudos, woo-hoo, right? But that's key to us continuing to be able to operate and sustain as a college. So that's a key focus, our accreditation, our legislative priorities, and the bond. Guess what? We are boom, boom, boom. All we need is Dr. Servini to knock it out of the park and get us some money with our legislative priorities, right? So again, this is continuing. This work augments the work that we do every day. It's not possible without this work. It often creates the funding that we need and the approval with the accreditation. Dr. Rose?
Okay, stay up here with me.
Okay.
So any question? One thing that I want to tell you too is that in that bond issue, if you get the chance, thank our Board of Trustees. Our Board of Trustees worked hard going out to meetings of different groups, community groups, to talk to them, because we cannot, and you could not, during working hours, advocate for that bond election. And so the two of us, we could not advocate at all. It didn't matter what time of day or night. But our elected officials, our trustees could do that. And they did. And they went out and they were out in force making that happen. So when you get a chance, tell them thank you. And I failed to mention, we have 3 trustees were elected, 2 incumbents. So Dr. Manny Gonzalez, who replaced Nicole Eversman, he got reelected, or elected because he was appointed the first time. Sean Hassan, who is a secretary of the board, got reelected for another 6-year term. And then Steve Jacobs, who retired, who is the CEO for Capital Idea, a fantastic partner of ACC. He is now a board member. And so we've got a great board. And okay, questions?
We talked about a
Yeah,
lot.
quiet.
You've already solved our ERP challenges.
Yeah. And I also want to tell Tracy thank you
Yes.
for all the work that you've done here. Your leadership on this campus makes a
Absolutely.
difference. And thank you also. She serves, if you didn't know, on the Round Rock Chamber of Commerce for us and represents ACC on that.
Yeah. Excellence in display.
Oh,
I'm gonna ask
you have
something.
okay.
I know the media. Oh yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I know the media is going to ask this, so I'm going to give you a practice.
Okay.
What are next steps for the bond? Now that it's passed, what's next?
Yeah. First is celebration. But next, the process is we're in the best shape that any institution could be in because of the work all of the groundwork that went into preparing for this, which included the academic master plan. So we have a vision for the future on what we want to deliver, how we're going to deliver it, and where. And then we also have a facilities master plan on every single campus or land bank that was prepared in advance of this. We don't have to go back and create a master plan for each campus. It exists. So we know exactly where facilities are going. We know exactly what we need in them because of the academic master plan. You put those together, and we're in perfect position. So now that it's approved, what we do is you hire an architect to sit down and work with our faculty and staff and make sure that every element is designed for what we need today and tomorrow for the future. And then based on that, then you take the next step, and that is going out with an RFP for construction. And you deliver it as quickly as possible. And that's our goal, because if, we have an obligation, and Dr. Humphrey was talking about our responsibility to our community. Our responsibility is to provide the right types of skill sets necessary for economic mobility, and that's exactly what we've got to do, and we've got to do it quick because time is wasting in filling those nursing positions, those healthcare positions, filling those law enforcement positions, those teaching positions. I don't know about you, but we met with the superintendent of AISD, and this was, I think, 3 weeks after the semester started. He said, I'm 200 teachers short. That's one school district. We work with 26 different school districts. Every one of them are feeling the pain, and they haven't filled all those positions yet. So how do we become a part of the solution to that? And we've been talking to UT on University of Texas at Austin on some kind of fast-tracking potential. We did that yesterday with Houston Tillotson. How can we work together, collaboratively, to provide that fast-track process to get more teachers into the classrooms? Anything else? Do you have another question, Brett? Yes.
Question in the back?
I'm just a little bit, I'm a little curious about the high flex class options. I've seen a few in some of the trades areas. Are we going to start seeing more of that option in core curriculum classes, math, English, things of that nature?
So I can start with the fact that we're working, the first part is the infrastructure in the classrooms. We want to expand that, have that available in more classrooms on each campus. The second step is we have a professional development available right now. It's as many faculty as we can get to complete the professional development to feel comfortable to offer those. We could offer, we have some faculty teaching in high flex classrooms now across the curriculum, across the region. So they're in every area. Humanities, it's not just our workforce classes, but they're across the board. We're really, the only capacity that we have is how many faculty complete the training, because now we're ready to go on the investment in the classroom. So it's a matter of getting our faculty comfortable for those that have the desire to teach. That's really the only capacity issue that we'll have now.
One thing I want to, this on? Okay. One thing I want to, that Dr. Humphrey mentioned earlier, the importance of humanities. What you see in this bond issue is a lot of career and technical education that has been missing for quite some time. But the importance of humanities is so critical to the future. And there is a book by Fareed Zakaria that came out, 6 years ago, called In Defense of the Humanities. And it's something that you need to read, but it is critical to the future of our country to continue to invest in that. One of the things that you always think about is who is the biggest technocrat that you can think of, and Dr. Humphrey talked about that person, Steve Jobs. But you want to know what Steve Jobs said when he rolled out I think it was wasn't the iPhone, I think maybe it was his tablet.
One of his biggest marketing things was the 3 products in one, the phone, and that was the
So he
smartphone.
comes out and he says, technology is in Apple DNA, but it is the humanities and the social sciences that makes the heart sing. The biggest technocrat in the world, historically, understood the value of the humanities.
I have to say here, Steve Jobs started at a community college in California. I have to say that. If people don't know it, that's not often shouted from the rooftops, but I think it should, because he said it was him taking a calligraphy class of all things and learning about language and all of that sparked, his intense focus on design and the ethical, the aesthetics of what they released. Think about if you purchase an Apple product now, it's the packaging, it's the elegance of it. They don't just throw things together. That started with him. So for us, as we think about the humanities and the importance, as there's this big emphasis on STEM, we can't do it without the humanities. We need people who are critical thinkers, who are problem solvers. And let's talk about the ethics of computer science and technology. We need people who can make strong ethical decisions. And that's in every industry.
And one of the surprising things to me too was, I've had some conversations for the last 5 or 6 years with different CEOs of IT, high-tech companies. And so one of the things I ask is, what was your baccalaureate degree in? You want to guess what a large number?
I'm guessing
music. It was
music.
astounding to me.
Music?
Music.
Bing, bing, bing.
Music. And as a former saxophone player, I thought, there's hope for me.
Yep, the patterns that you learn, the practice, the discipline that comes with a music background is wonderful.
I can go back to this. All right. Sorry.
What other questions do you have? I know you're thinking about stuff.
Okay.
Thank
If there aren't any, you can always ask us individually if you want to. But thank you again. Thank you for your support. Thank you for staying with us. And thank you for making that bond issue election possible.
Have a good day.